We're back, everyone, and we have our first guest today. Flynn, you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you're at?
How's it going, guys? Flynn Crawford here from Louisville, Kentucky. Met Jackson here in Florida when we were stationed together, Eglin Air Force Base. I'm in the Air Force as a nurse, and I'm currently stationed in Aviano, Italy. So the time changed for all of us. We had to line it up to make it work. Italy here, Jackson, Alaska, and now he's in the States. So, happy to be here and talk some cinema. Very excited. Appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yeah, of
Amazing.
course.
So,
This is a big get for us. We were gonna get Robert Downey to possibly talk about the film, or Nolan, but we said no, no, no. We want bring in Flynn.
Yeah,
So
right.
we
yeah.
really held out.
Yeah, we're like, no, Flynn knows more about this film.
You know,
So,
just
Flynn, tell us why you chose it. It was Flynn's pick this
so
week.
yeah, so big fan of Chris Nolan. Obviously, you guys already previously talked about Chris Nolan on Dark Knight, if I remember correctly. Just a big fan of his films. Oppenheimer, I was watched all the festivities leading up to the movie. Watched all the like YouTube videos of the actors talking about it, and Chris Nolan talking about it, and how it was like one of the projects that he like really enjoyed making. He's just has such a in-depth knowledge of the film industry and how to present a cinema to an audience, and so once I saw the movie, I was like, this is just an incredible masterpiece of cinematography, acting, you name it. And I think it's a movie that everybody should watch. It's got a lot of depth to it. It's not a very action heavy movie that you might expect it to be with it about,
Yeah,
making the atomic bomb. It's really more
yeah,
of that biography of, Oppenheimer. We'll get into it, but like the moral dilemma that he was feeling when
Mm,
creating the atom bomb and all of that. And so he just did such an incredible job. And I wanted you guys to see it to also kind of feel that same thing.
mm-hmm.
yeah. I'm such a dummy that I immediately thought Oppenheimer, big bomb explode. Yeah, I thought it was more action because of the big bomb and everything.
Yeah.
But what did you think about your initial time? Because this is my first time seeing it. Maggie, I believe, as well. Your first time?
Same, yeah. Yeah, first time.
What did you think about the timeline, seeing it initially? Did you like that? Did you find it confusing at all? Would you have preferred the Golden Chron? Because I actually liked it. I like how sometimes I was a little confused as to where they were, but then with enough context in the scene, you eventually like get there like 10, 15 seconds later.
Yeah, I think, well, Flynn, how did you take
Yeah,
it
that was a
seeing
question
it?
for you, Flynn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. I thought
that's
you
okay.
asked for Maggie.
No.
Yeah, so the first time watching it, you see the black and white, and they don't tell you why it's black and white, and so
Hmm.
after watching the movie, did some research and learned about the point of view perspective that was, trying to show like more real color of like what it was happening back then and in the 30s and 40s and even before then, in the perspective of the outside viewer of what was happening with Oppenheimer in his life and Strauss and so it's really interesting how they did it with the breaking up, chronologically and not being in a linear way that I think made you think about the ending, the middle, and the beginning, to have to decipher kind of his life and ultimately where he ended up kind of feeling disgraced and then having to come back from that. And there was a great quote, near the end when he was talking to Einstein about they're gonna build you up and then they're gonna break you down, and they're gonna forget everything that happened in your past and appreciate what you did previously, right? And so, I think Chris Nolan did a good job of showing that.
That was one of my favorite scenes when we finally get to see the conversation between him and
Yeah,
Einstein. And then Strauss's the guy that was working for him being like, maybe it was something more important than talking about you. I was like, yes, like that was an
yeah.
amazing line as well.
It really just is a perspective of like you think those that are self-centered, think about themselves more so. It's like, hey, maybe they weren't even talking about you, and sure enough, they weren't. And he just like sabotaged, his entire cabinet appointment because of a personal vendetta that he had against Oppenheimer for a conversation that he didn't even know was talked about.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
I wondered what kind of why Strauss was so involved. I'm like, why is this the second lead? I didn't quite understand until obviously the conclusion and the final scene. But I will say it got me thinking after. Like, I think they're as great of a movie as that was, because I do think it was a great movie. I almost wonder if there was a bigger story out there, as opposed to Oppenheimer and Strauss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I
a
feel like
bigger
you
story to
definitely.
capture.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, with history during that time, there were so many things happening that you kind of could have gone many different rabbit holes as far as how they wanted the movie to be shot. because it's based off a book, which I haven't read, American Prometheus, but it's really kind
Me
of more
neither.
of like an autobiography of his life and kind of what he was dealing with at the time. And then I think maybe they just saw that, you know, Strauss's character as one that could kind of intertwine with the story. And I think it worked. And obviously RDJ had an amazing performance. And he talked extensively, like in his leading up to the movie, of like this was like one of his favorite projects he's ever worked on. And it really like shows like his range and depth as an actor, like not just being an action hero, and like can really dive into a deeper role. And he had talked a lot about how he enjoyed that process.
I thought he liked Doctor Dolittle more. I thought that challenged him more as an actor.
Right. Of
No, but
course, of
I
course.
think at the end, it all made sense for me why Nolan made this movie. Because when he referenced, I don't know if you guys caught this. Well, I know you did, Flings. You've seen it 85 times. But when they referenced the young senator from Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
he was like, what's his name?" And then John F.
Yeah,
Kennedy.
JFK.
So he was kind of alluding to the fact, like, this guy's already causing problems, and then kind of not getting the nod, like, all right, shadow government possibly did assassinate him years later or orchestrate that. And I think that's kind of the story for me. I was like, well, why aren't they making this? Why is Strauss the second? It was my whole question. This could be
Mm,
a bigger topic. And then I think at the end, he's kind of uncovering some of the dark secrets of the U.S. government and the world's secrets a little bit in the film. So I think that was, in my opinion, a little bit of his motive, especially at the end, kind of hinting at it for the viewers.
Yeah. No, for sure. Mag, do you have anything
yeah,
to
I
add to
thought
that?
it yeah, I thought it was great in terms of them showing, like, the political manipulation, through, like, saying that people were communist, and so I thought it was great at doing that, and then that's I think the 3 timelines, we have Oppenheimer's scientific journey, of course, and then his 1954 security clearance hearing, and then Strauss' 1959 Senate confirmation hearing. I thought that was a great way to do it non-linear to keep the viewers really hooked because, I mean, it was a 3-hour movie, right? So if they did it chronologically, I would have probably got really bored, so I think it was a
Yeah.
great way to do that,
Here,
and then
here's 3 Senate hearings for you. Enjoy. Yeah. No thanks.
right.
Fairly dry, to be honest. But yeah, no, I thought it was
How did
good.
you feel about them including, um, his affairs in the movie? Because I've heard mixed reviews on that in terms of, like, should that have been included? Is that important to his story? What do you guys think?
Funny enough, so I was taking notes during the movie and I put Oppenheimer has motion because it just seemed like every scene he was like womanizing or, with having an affair. Like, first it was, Gene Tatlock. And then you like find
Yeah.
out later in the movie that he had an affair with Ruth, who's like not even a big part of the movie.
You get
Just,
near this guy. Yeah. If you get near that guy, it's
yeah.
over.
Yeah. He's just like, and the General Groves, his character I talked about, womanizer, right? Like they'd even mentioned it kind of earlier on. So I mean,
They alluded to it. Yeah.
who knew that the sciences had motion like that, man? I mean, he was all over the place.
Well,
Yeah,
also, what was interesting about that, sorry, Maggie, you can go after this. What was interesting about that was Einstein was a notorious playboy as well and a philanderer. So, the scientific community, I think no matter what it is, if you have a certain amount of notoriety, it doesn't really matter. I mean, look at Bill Gates, the turbo dork. Couldn't get dorkier. You
Turbo
know what I mean?
Dork.
And Oppenheimer is at
Yeah,
least like a reasonable looking fella and all that. So, and also when you're on Los Alamos, I think there's only a certain amount of people there anyway. In real life, I thought that was interesting too. But they all seem to be at least people kind of with similar interests in his circles, I guess. Because early on, it was like a little bit of the communist tie, just friends through friends. So there was some common ground, at least relatively, there with all these women.
mhm. Yeah, and even
No
to
great
add
man can
another
be
name to the
faithful.
list,
Sorry.
even Stephen Hawking too. I mean, when any of that comes out about a person, a man, I'm like, "Oh, it's really not a surprise." Like, okay, as to be expected, like you're saying.
Particularly back during that time too, when you were away from your spouse and there was no way to contact them, but like phone call or
Right.
mail. It was just a bit more fluid in that time, to be honest, from what it seemed like. But yeah, I definitely was not when I first like saw the film and I was like, how many affairs he had at this point? Like you just didn't know that part of his life. You knew that he made the A bomb. You didn't know all that, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But I did think it was important to the story because when he was getting his security clearance, the scene during that and his there was a one scene with his good friend. I can't remember the character's name, but he was like, "Is Kitty gonna be okay in there?" And he's like, "We're adults. Like, we can talk about our, our past and it like not be a problem." And I think Kitty, for whatever reason, wanted to be by his side during all this. And so, Emily Blunt obviously had an incredible performance in the movie. And, I think really kind of showed the strong willed woman she was, having to deal with all the things that were going on and having a spouse who was on a big project like this. And so I thought that they showed that really well, as far as it actually kind of was important to the timeline, to, or at least the movie, his affairs, and how that was interplaying with like his loyalty to the government and to
Yeah.
science and like ethical decisions and things like that.
Well,
Right.
why would you leave it out, Maggie? Like, this is the story of the man. You have to show the good, the bad, the ugly, like, all sides. I think it would be kind of a disgrace to leave it out, honestly. Because like Flynn's
No,
saying, it makes you question his character more, which is what, the whole committee is trying to do. They're trying to assassinate his character to make him irrelevant by taking away his Q clearance.
right. No, I agree. I think, I just heard that and doing some research, I saw some different people's opinions, especially older people watching the movie that have, like, a great amount of respect for Oppenheimer and that were, like, even alive during the time. I've seen people say that they're like, "Oh, why include that in the movie?" But I agree with both your points. I think it was good to include it, and it certainly didn't take away from the story at all.
Added some intrigue, some would say. Added some intrigue.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a piece of it for sure. I did want to ask about the weekend.
Flynn, you're your host, by the way. You're driving this, all right? So
I'm
wherever you
driving
want to
this?
go.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
One of the first quotes of the movie, or there's a lot of great quotes in this movie, but one of them was, "And now I become death, destroyer of worlds," because that really is like the overarching ethical thing in this film, right? Like, there's so many, the conversation he has with Einstein about, hey, when we make the A bomb and we actually light it off, there's a good chance we could blow up the atmosphere, blow up the world. And like, they have like, to have this power that was created, they had to sacrifice the potential of like ending the world, and to basically show that there was never gonna be more wars after this, right? And that was like the kind of premise of making sure the Nazis didn't get it and they didn't use it. And that quote is very ingrained in my brain, as far as what he was dealing with, having created this weapon that has since never been used ever again since the first two that were dropped in Japan. And so I thought it was a super powerful quote.
Yeah, 10
Agreed.
out of 10 quote. When I heard that, I was like, "Oh my god, like, that's amazing."
Well, I
Yeah.
think a lot of this movie in and of itself is showing you how much the world changed in that moment. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. It's completely different now. And especially post H bomb, which the hydrogen bomb is 100 times what we now think of as our atomic arsenal. They're all hydrogen atomic bombs. So it is 100 times more powerful than what was dropped on Hiroshima and
It's
Nagasaki.
thousands of times more powerful.
Pardon
Thousands.
me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually insane to think the scale now of what we are capable of. And then you look at Russia, they have tactical nukes, which are a bit more precise. And that would be maybe more, more current events, what could happen in the future, in a near future, with it being a conflict in Ukraine right now, if all of a sudden they were to decide to use one, versus a big bomb. Somebody drops that, like, that's millions and millions of people, not, the 500,000 or 200,000 that were killed after radiation of the bombs in Japan.
Yeah, they would have to drop. There is a great book that goes through this. My favorite author currently, Annie Jacobson. She dives into a lot of topics like this. Her most recent book was called Nuclear War, and she basically runs through a scenario. A lot of Air Force bases, by the way. You guys are sneaky little fellas. Yeah. But she runs through a scenario where a nuke is launched from North Korea. Basically, like the response time. It's kind of a three-part book, like what the response time to current situation would do. And then a different perspective is what, like, post, it looks like what the world would look like after. It's a nuke headed to DC, by the way, is like this scenario. She walks you through, and then she walks you through the history of like how they got there. So it's like real time. It's a fake scenario, but it feels kind of real halfway through. You're like, oh shit.
Have you
So
seen House of Dynamite yet? It's on Netflix, about a nuclear missile being fired at the United States and like what that would look like. So you should watch it. It's interesting. It's thought provoking. Idris Elba is the president, and it's kind of random. It came out on Netflix like a month back. If you're interested in that kind of
yeah.
idea or film, you should take a look. But kind of back to the movie that we watched, the part you talked about the changing of the world. There's that scene with
Hmm.
Kitty and Oppenheimer when he's like, everything's changing, and Oppenheimer doesn't realize that she's talking about like everything is changing in the world with the fact that like there's just so much political turmoil and like there's evil out there and like all the things that are about to happen after creating the bomb, which did come to fruition of the Cold War. Shortly after that, we're in the race to make sure we can match the Russians and things like that. And like the start of World War II when Hitler invaded Poland, like really just set off this cascade of events that led to nuclear war and the then peace shortly after, but this like tension amongst the entire world. And you like, I think they definitely wanted to hit on that as far as like you feel that kind of tension that everybody had felt shortly after World War II and where we currently are right now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think they did a great job with that. Going back to, like, when you first saw it, Flynn, I was interested, did you go on the day that it opened in theaters? Which
So
historically it was called Barbenheimer, right? Because
Barbenheimer, yeah.
Barbie was the same day.
Oh,
So I was actually, this is incredibly like ironic, but I was stationed in Japan when it was officially released, and they didn't release it in Japan for obvious reasons right away.
yeah.
So eventually it was released in theaters in Japan. And so like truly watching that movie in Japan was
You were
such a
cheering. You're like, yeah.
such a surreal experience. And we, went with some of our friends from base, and there were Japanese nationals watching the movie. And there's like this couple in front of us that were like actively crying, like when they were
Mm.
talking about another scene that was really a true story was when the Secretary of War was deciding what cities they were going to bomb, and he crossed off Kyoto because he had honeymooned there with his
Wow.
wife, and that is
Yeah.
a true story. And like I've
Wow.
I've been to Kyoto, like it truly is like one of my favorite cities I've ever been to in the world. And so having watched the movie in Japan, knowing how it affected the Japanese people and like the aftermath of that, like was really powerful in a way. And I'm glad
Mhm.
that Chris Nolan, the way that they shot it was you don't see any carnage of like that's not what it was about, right? It's not about like they wanted to bring light to that as far as it was devastating to the Japanese people. And, truly like we didn't want to do it. Many people didn't want to do it. However, it was just that super powerful experience of like watching it in the country where the bomb was actually dropped. Like it was kind of
Mhm.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I bet.
agree about the carnage showing the bomb. I thought it was beautiful how, especially when they were talking about like isotopes and neutrons and breaking it down, whenever they would get real sciencey, he would just it'd be like kind of a narration or the dialogue would keep going, but then they would just show like big bombs going off. So for
Yeah.
someone like me, I'm like, oh, boom, that makes sense now, you know? And
Right.
the cinematography was incredible during that. So I thought Nolan did. That's why. So I initially, we'll get to rankings later, but I'll say I initially kind of just threw this kind of in the middle and I shot it way up in my rankings after because I thought he just did such a great job on honestly a hard topic. I think anyone else trying to make this movie interesting without showing the devastation without going at all from Japan's perspective and just basically talking about science and Senate committee hearings, I thought was that was tough to pull off how exciting that was.
Yeah,
And
it's
he did an
definitely
incredible job.
it's definitely not a kids movie. Definitely not a like the audience that can appreciate this film like has to be a bit higher brow, like to an extent of like
Oh, no,
being able
100%.
to
But and it was such a huge box office hit, which kind of gives you hope for the nation when at the times it seemed so hopeless.
yeah.
I had another point, but you go ahead, Maggie, before I forget.
Yeah, I think that was definitely something that popped up into my mind, like, are we ever gonna see even just, like, a overview shot, of maybe, like, the bomb actually hitting when it went off without actually showing people dying, but I think
I got it.
even without it, it was really great. I think it
And
was,
to
like
an ex
I was just gonna say, I think it was more respectful to the Japanese to leave it out.
well, and to even to that point too, there is the scene where he's like giving the speech after they drop the bombs, and it like is the feet are thumping, right? And he
Mhm.
goes in and it gets deafeningly quiet and he's giving the speech and he can't hear anything. And then at the like near the end of that, he sees like the skin melting off people's faces. It gets really bright.
Hmm.
Like that was how they showed it without actually showing it, which I thought was a really good way of kind of showing like
Yeah.
how he felt about it.
And he was
Right.
when he was getting interrogated and he was getting upset, and the guy was yelling, 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 and then eventually the room just exploded. So it was kind of another allusion to the bomb, which I thought was great. But a point I had on the the bomb itself and the perspective of dropping bombs on civilians. Another book that Annie Jacobson wrote was about like black operations, and it was called Surprise, Kill, Vanish, and a lot of it had to do with the early origins of MacFog C, which it was like a kind of a precursor to special forces and the in Vietnam. And she specifically followed this one guy who would he worked directly under Cofer Black, who was notoriously like CIA's darkest operator, most black operator, and Billy Waugh was his name. And he had the perspective at 90 years old. He went back to Vietnam where he served, and he met with this other like 90-year-old Vietnam guy. And he had the perspective that they should have just dropped a nuclear bomb on Vietnam to end the war early. And that guy was so brokenhearted and crying. This 90-year-old Vietnam man was sobbing, saying, "How could you think that? These are civilians. These are my family." And then Billy was just like, look at how many lives you would have saved. Look at how many brothers you lost. So even after the fact, when you know all the facts of war, you can still have different perspectives on what the greater loss is. So I just found that to be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the initial reasoning, aside from just showing what we created, was also to prevent an invasion of Japan to save lives. Although
Right.
I think
For
later
the greater good.
yeah, but like I think they had later determined that the Japanese emperor was going to surrender even shortly before we dropped the bombs. And we had talked about in those hearings, they were like, we're going to drop one for like a show of force. Two, the second one is going to be more psychological, and that we can keep doing this until they surrender. Like the plan was to always drop two, which another fun fact. So Hiroshima was the first one, and then Nagasaki was not even initially supposed to be the second target. It was actually this other city called Kokura. And there was the day of the bombing of Kokura, there was all these manufacturing plants that had created this like smoke fog in the air, and the bombardiers couldn't see the drop site. And so they had to pivot to Nagasaki. And so there's this saying now in Japan, the ghosts of Kokura kind of saved the city
Mm.
from being bombed, which is like such a powerful like thing
Wow.
to think about, that like this other city was spared because of just visibility at the time. You know, they had to make sure that they dropped it in the right location to get the mass amount of essentially casualties that they were trying to accomplish. But that was kind of another fun fact that I learned shortly after watching the film, just kind of doing a little bit more research.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a fun fact.
Yeah, maybe not fun, interesting facts.
Interesting. Yeah, there you
Be
go.
a better would be
Yeah.
a better way to put it. Yeah, I mean, at
You're
the end of the day, right? This whole movie is like very dark and tough. To kind of
Yeah.
on the heart and head, if you will.
yeah,
Yeah, I
when I
think
sent
it's a
you
really
the
important
question
watch.
Yeah, when I sent you the questionnaire, I was like, what movie do you want to watch? You want to watch something fun, lighthearted? You want to go comedy? What are we doing? Hangover? And you're like, no, let's do the origin of the atomic bomb. I'm like, all right,
Hey,
well,
but to be fair, this is like we could be on here for hours talking about this film because there's just so much to it,
absolutely.
and we're not going to have that kind of time. But I think it has so much depth to be able to speak to all the various things that go into making a film, and then also the history behind it too. And so, but yeah, just a little bit light. First pod with you guys, wanted to keep it light.
No, I think it was a great one to choose, and especially since Jax and I hadn't seen it, and it's one of your favorite films, and we love Christopher Nolan, so it was
Yeah.
amazing. But I wanna jump back to we were talking about the scoring a little bit already,
Oh,
and I thought the scoring for this movie was so brilliant. It built up
Lovely.
so much tension. Oh my god, it was perfect, like, no notes. What do you guys think about the scoring?
Josh, you want to go first because I can talk at length about the score.
No, no, please go ahead.
So Ludwig Göransson, kind of a newer-ish guy on the scene. He's likely going to be at the league of Hans Zimmer, by the end of his career, with the amount of films he's going to be involved with and whatnot. I remember I did write down, so I've listened to this score quite a lot actually since it came out, but I literally just put in my notes music, because the music in this film, and I think music in general, adds so much to a film when you watch it. And the score for this film in particular really enhanced it tenfold. Like there's a scene where he talks about with Niels Bohr, who's like one of his idols, when he's meeting him, I guess technically
Yeah,
for like not the first time, but he tells him stop being in the labs and like go do theory, right? And he's like, "Can you hear the music?" And then they play that song. It's called "Can You Hear the Music?" And there's so many times throughout this film where the background music enhances the scene that we're watching. The other one that comes to mind is when they're about to do the Trinity test, and it's this like anxious tone in the room amongst the actors, as well as the music is like this very like anxiety provoking sound.
Mhm.
And I think it just like truly enhanced that scene tenfold. On top of the fact that Josh Peck had an appearance in this film, and like that was his main role. I like died laughing when I saw him the first time. I'm like, we have a Josh Peck appearance in Oppenheimer. Where has he been?
He pushed the button. Like, he pushed the test
I
button.
Yeah,
I
I know.
know.
Yeah.
It was like it was hard to not laugh, like you're saying. And yeah, and then I was like, he's the one pushing the button. Like, that's an interesting role to give him. Um, such a serious position. He's known for this sitcom.
Absolutely. But yeah, so the score just incredible. Ludwig Göransson, he won the Oscar for, or they won the Oscar for, I think it was, I don't know if it wasn't best sound, it was a best original score at the Oscars. And you can't really compete with that, with that sound that they created for this film. I mean, it was just truly like incredible. And I actually didn't look at
Yeah.
this. I don't know if you guys had, but there's some directors do the film and then they have their the score made after, and then some do the score first and then make the film to kind of cater it to it.
Yeah.
We should probably look that up and see how they did it, or if they kind of did it scene by scene and was like, here's add the sound. I feel like it's so hard to like intertwine
Yeah.
the score with the
Tarantino's one of
film.
those guys. Tarantino's one of those guys where he has to see it with the music for the most part. And he chooses it. He had this great story about with Kill Bill, how he was just like wandering around some city and he found like a bunch of, you know, a bunch of old albums and just listened to them. And then he's like, that's it, And so it's just, it's interesting how you find out how inspiration is struck in these artists. So
Yeah,
if you
you
guys have
got
any
some
questions about how
you
great
got
I
some
am, just like,
you've got some
yeah,
like orchestral background ad music in your on your treadmill background right now.
that's not me. Is that you, Maggie?
Uh,
I,
maybe it's me.
I
Is
think
it
that's
Maggie?
Oma playing some loud ass shit. No, I think
Yeah,
that's our grandma playing.
she's she's playing like a movie downstairs. Can you hear it
Okay.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's actually
I'm
perfect timing.
God. Yeah, it's literally opera. I'm
yeah.
literally gonna text her, May, can you turn it
Good
down?
call. She's old. She won't be able to hear. Maybe this is our background for the pod.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
Maggie,
I think
what did you think about the sound, and like what was your thoughts when you heard it for the first time?
I mean, I think it was amazing. I love the use of silence that they weave into it a lot. It builds a lot of the tension. Like we mentioned before, the speech, I thought the silence in that was a really, really great use of it. It was just perfect. Yeah, I think it was amazing. Definitely should have won the Grammy and the Oscar. I think it was perfect. If I had to guess, I think that they would have added in the scoring after or like developed it scene by scene because I don't know how they would have made it before and
Right.
then like interwoven it. Seems like they did it after, but yeah, it was perfect. There hasn't been a movie like that I've seen in a while where I was just like, "Oh my god." And yeah, especially when they're doing the test, I was like, "Wow," like I was actually feeling anxiety, like my heart was racing, and when they were doing the countdown and everything over the speakers, yeah, that was amazing. Very powerful scene.
Particularly just because there was that scene with Groves and Oppenheimer where at this point now he's really casual about this comment of they did the calculations and the chances that the atmosphere in the world blows
Near
up
zero.
is near zero. And
Yeah.
he's like,
Mhm.
near zero, like that line is so great because by then Oppenheimer's like, well, if it happens, it happens, right? Like,
Yeah.
you guys
What
want to
would
go
you like
through
it
with
to?
it?
Yeah. And then he's like, "What would you like it to be?" And Graves is like, "0."
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Right.
thought that was great.
Theory
Yeah.
only takes you so far.
There's
Yeah.
definitely this is definitely not a comedy, but there were parts of the movie that I think you could have like, had a little humor that and then they trickled it in there. I also laughed. This is completely side note interject, but the scene where Gene and Cillian Murphy are just naked having a conversation. Like
Yeah,
what
it
What
just
the,
like
like
tits out.
yeah, like what
how
is that?
they just cut to that out of nowhere.
Yeah, like what is
Yeah.
this scene right now?
And then she's in the court. Like, I think that chick just wanted to be naked or something. Because then she's in the court, like the hearing naked. Like, the 2 minutes after we
Yeah.
meet her, she's naked.
Well, that's
You know,
oh, that's
like,
not just any chick, Jax. That's Florence Pugh. She's
Yeah,
one of
she's
the
an
top
amazing
actresses right now.
actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know who that is. I'm sure. I know. Like, I'm sure but I'm just saying, like, there had to be
yeah.
something in the contract. Like, look, like, don't think about putting your clothes on days that end in Y. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure that was interesting when they were reading the script and they saw that
who
scene in
is
there of
Florence Pugh?
like.
Should I know her?
So she's a British actress. Her like first bigger role was in
Midsummer?
that and also Black Widow. She's like the sister to Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow, in like one of the spin-off movies. And
Yeah,
then she's also in the new Dune Part 2, which if you guys also want to watch another fantastic film, Dune, I
yeah.
could again talk at length about that. But she's in that too. She's really good. Midsommar, I've not seen that yet, but I've heard it's good. She's kind of like up and coming actress and kind of like
Mhm.
big on the scene right now.
Yeah.
And then
First of all, we'll see if we invite you back. All right. Don't
I
go
know.
pitching doing part two already. No, no, no. Go ahead.
she
Go
was
ahead,
in
Megan.
she was in We Live in Time, um,
Oh, that's
with
a big
Andrew
one.
Garfield. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really, really great in that,
yeah.
and
No, I've never
then
seen it. Yeah.
I was like, "You've heard of that?" That was a more, like, drama-esque movie. I think her performance in that was amazing, and
Okay.
then, she was in the movie Don't Worry, Darling with,
Yeah,
Harry
Harry Styles.
Styles.
Yeah, I did see that
Yeah.
one. That was a weird one. That was a weird movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I think she's great. I We'll talk about this later, but I don't know if it was her best performance, but I haven't seen, I don't think, enough of her movies to really rank her performances, but I think, yeah, she wasn't
Oh,
one
she
of the
was great.
leads, so I think,
Yeah.
yeah, she did great for the role she was in. She just
There
didn't have much screen time.
Yeah, there it was really hard, like, because we had kinda had the prompt of, like, who's, like, had the worst performance, and I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, "All these guys kinda killed it," you know?
They kind of kill it. Yeah.
And part of
Yeah.
that is when they were talking about it like, so Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., when they were doing all this stuff before the film came out, they were talking about how they felt like the energy in the room went up because it was a Chris Nolan film and they had to, like, perform at their highest level. And again, this cast is just so star-studded that, like, everybody was bringing their A game to work every single day.
Mhm.
And the other fact is Chris Nolan films on actual film, so you can't just like
Right.
it's very, very expensive to do the reshoots, right? So like every take had to be like on point. And so I think you're kind of getting your best out of every actor in that movie because of the stakes that were, having all these great actors, and it's a Chris Nolan film and it's this feature film about Oppenheimer. And I definitely didn't really feel like there was a bad performance from any actor really when I was watching it.
But if you had to give it,
Yeah.
you'd give it to her, is what you're saying.
I would give it to, I think, the guy who played Teller because his accent was just like kind of weird.
That's my guy.
Yeah, like I just if there's somebody
It
to
was
pick, it
the
was
accent. It was too much
yeah,
for me. Yeah.
yeah. That was probably it. But there's just so many like random drops. Like, do you guys know have you seen the show The Boys?
Yeah, yeah.
It's whatever his name is in that, but it's Dennis Quaid's kid is in it, and he's got like a pretty small role but the guy who played Roger Robb, his first name escapes me. His last name's Clark. He's in a lot of stuff. There was the Josh Peck sighting. There's Matt Damon. I mean, Matt Damon's character had a great.
I thought he killed it.
He absolutely destroyed General Groves. Yeah, and then of
Yeah.
course, I mean, Cillian Murphy. That might have been his greatest
His
performance
Oppenheimer. Yeah.
of. I mean, the side by side of Oppenheimer and him is so uncanny. And when he's putting on the hat and he's got this, the pipe, like it's just so on point, and he absolutely destroyed that role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
there's
agree.
no movie without him.
Yeah, I don't think there were really any bad performances. I was, like, trying to look out for anything. I think if I was choosing the actors and the roles, I think I would have switched out Josh Peck for, like, a different person just for that role because it just, like, took away from the scene a little bit for me because I was just, like, laughing to myself, like, Josh Peck.
I think maybe more so for our generation though, because we
Yeah.
did watch,
Yeah. Not
like
many
other
people.
like older people are like, I
Ain't
don't
ain't
know
as
those
big as you
guys.
think. Drake and Josh. Yeah.
Right, right.
There's
Yeah.
other actors where there's always going to be an actor where you're like when Dexter's dad pops up, I'm like, oh, what's Harry doing here? Like, it took me out of it. And then he's like talking about
Yeah.
honeymooning. That's why he's not going to bomb that city. And I was like, oh, Harry, you silly dog. Like, I could
Yeah.
not think about Dexter in that scene. There's
No,
always going to be an
everyone
actor or actress. I'm still talking. There's always going to be an actor or actress where like you don't know.
Jeez.
You're always going to associate them with that certain role. You know what I mean? So it's going to be hard
That's
to get that out of your head.
That's fair. I just think, like, the role of actually, like, pushing the button, like, I think, yeah, keep him in there, but switch him out for something else. That's my only thing. I don't think he did a bad job. I think he did fine,
Is
But
that
yeah,
your worst performance?
no, that was just a point I had. This film was absolutely stacked with actors though. Tony Goldwyn is in it too. He's in like the, hearing that they have about the security clearance, and yeah, he
Which
was in
one was he?
Scandal.
Which one was he?
He's
In the
he was
middle?
like yeah.
The middle of the, like, judges, if you will, that was sitting
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, and
Okay,
he's
yeah,
like
yeah,
the most attractive guy who's like 45, 50 looking.
yeah, I've seen him in other stuff, I just didn't know his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's pretty good. Yeah, every single time we got to a new scene, I was like, "Oh my god," recognizing so many of the actors. It's
Lot of
amazing.
working actors. You're like, where's that guy from again?
Right.
Yeah. So who was your worst performance, Maggie? Who was your worst performance? You gotta give us a name, you know?
I don't really have one. Is that fine? I don't wanna, like, make up one that I don't really, like, feel passionate about.
Yeah, dude. Well, I have a strong take on a podcast, you know? No, that's fine. All right, Flynn, where do you want to go from here?
We're trying to get noticed here, we gotta throw out some hot takes.
Yeah. Killian Murphy, worst performance.
Right. No, I'm gonna opt out because I didn't feel strongly about any of them. Yeah, I thought everyone was great. Didn't feel strongly enough.
All right. Another point I wanted to bring out was about the actual film being used. So they used 11 miles worth of film weighing about 600 pounds was
Holy
the,
shit.
yeah. And so for Chris Nolan's new film coming out, The Odyssey, they have more film than that even because it's all shot on IMAX camera, which is going to
Mm.
be
Sick.
such
Yeah.
an epic movie, kind of going forward the future. But was there any other parts of the film that like piqued your interest, whether it was the beginning, middle, and end, or like something that was said, like a quote that you guys had, written down or anything?
Definitely the quote that we talked about in the beginning, like, "I'm the creator of death." Like, that was mic drop, absolutely insane. And then I think my favorite scene of all time from the movie was either the Trinity test, that's probably, like, tied for me, and then the end when we see the conversation with Albert. That was
Well,
just, like, perfect.
there's a great quote with that, because the end scene with Einstein, they're talking about making a bomb that could end the world, and even
Mhm.
before that, he said, "I think we did," was the quote, and the
Yeah.
end
Yeah.
scene is like,
Yeah,
"I think
set
we
off
did
the
do it."
chain reaction.
Yeah, I mean, that's super powerful to think about because ultimately, again, like how we had talked about at the beginning of this, is like the whole point of this film was to show this ethical and moral dilemma that Oppenheimer was going through when he was creating the bomb, knowing that they needed to do it because they didn't want the Nazis to have it. And then there's that really awesome scene in the Oval Office with Truman, who is played by Gary Oldman, and he's like feeling guilty about dropping the bomb, and Truman's like, "Dude, you didn't drop it, I did. Like, stop feeling sorry for yourself," kind of thing, which I thought was like total power move by Truman to kind of be like, wipe yourself
It is
off.
all about power in that moment. And then when he's walking out, he's like, "Don't bring that crybaby back in here," you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
And
mean,
do you have more to say about that?
no,
You
you
guys?
keep going.
Well, what's fascinating about that whole era and then into the Eisenhower administration is, well, Eisenhower and Truman is during that whole time is when, again, an Annie Jacobson book, she covers Area 51, which is where we get a lot of, it was initially mostly built for the U-2 spy plane. And just to get more intelligence on the Soviets was kind of where the origins, and the Roswell crash in 47, that's where allegedly a lot of the remains are. But her whole book is based on the Freedom of Information Act. So it's all public knowledge. You just have to ask for it from the government. But a lot of her unnamed sources in there go on record saying that the Manhattan Project was S1. It was the first born black program, is what they call it, where there's no congressional oversight, any amount of funding. And so they call it born black, where the public, it's born secret, the public never knows. And the program she discovers later on is S4. And I won't bore you with all the details, but basically, she finds out that the US is taking basically like special needs children and people in prisons and running human tests on them and killing them oftentimes for what's it called? Like eugenics or eugenics? So,
Eugenics.
and yeah. So she finds that out. That's S4. And that started in the late 40s, early 50s as well. So in between, there's S2 and S3, two other born black programs that happened during that time that we don't find out what they are. And then the last scene of the movie, and you don't find that out till the very end, and that just like blows your mind. And then the next chapter, she reveals the guy that and Vannevar Bush was the guy running the S4 program, had no oversight, unlimited program, and look him up, Vannevar Bush. But
Wow.
and the old guy who wouldn't give his name, who worked there, he was one of the top guys, and he said, and Annie was like, because he's like 95. He's like, why not tell us now? And he just like he was like crying. He's like, I can't say anymore. It's too terrible. And she's like, what don't we know? Like, we're at this. All right. If she had like fries on his plate, she held up like a fry. Like, if this is the program you just told me about, like, what don't I know? Is it the plate? Is it the size of the plate? And then he just like shook his head. He's like, is it the size of the table? And he's like, no, it's the size of the restaurant. So one fry and the size of the restaurant, and we don't know. So I just thought that was fascinating. So all
Yeah.
these born black programs to like vastly accelerate the technology and the race against the world, we're kind of born out of this era, you know, which is kind of the end scene. Like there's no going back, you know.
Maggie, do you
So
want to add to that?
scary, terrifying. I mean, it's not surprising. I've never heard about that, but it's not surprising because, I mean, me being in like the psychology field, there's so many unethical and morally wrong experiments that were done, similar to that. But to think that there's no oversight, there's obviously no morals and ethics, people don't have any human rights basically in a kind of scenario like that, that's just so scary but not surprising. And here in America, that's just wow. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got people in high places doing what they think's in the best interest of the people in the country that they're in charge of, and there's certain interests, and throughout history, it's been like that for a long time. Particularly for the Manhattan Project, it was, hey, the Nazis are building a bomb, so we got to beat them to
Right,
it.
right.
The budget for that they said was what, 3 billion, $2 billion, and in today's world that's like 22+ billion dollars worth of resources that were used to create the bombs, if you will, and then also in like the multiple locations. Because I thought it was interesting too, they really went into like the compartmentalization part of it, which again is like being in the military, like about that, right? Like everybody has certain clearances and you don't get to see the whole puzzle, the whole picture, because like somebody knows something, but they don't know that what they're doing over at this site, and then somebody knows everything, and then it all comes together. And so they did a good job of that in the movie too, as far as saying like, hey, Chicago's working on this, Tennessee's actually mining the plutonium and the uranium, and then Los Alamos is where it's actually all going down as far as like the testing and whatnot.
Yeah, real quick, what was Chicago doing? I was never completely clear. Maybe I just missed it. Do you know what Chicago, like their involvement was in that?
I'm
It
actually
doesn't have,
It's
okay,
not
yeah, I'm gonna
clear.
have to look that up
Yeah, I'm
because
I'm blanking on it too because there was other scientists there that were doing different testing of some
yeah,
sort,
like
but
he would go there to like confer with the scientists, but I'm like because they had that scene under the stadium, but I was never actually
yeah,
100%.
I think Maggie's checking it out right
I hear
now.
some loud typing. Yeah, some opera music
Yeah,
and loud typing on that end.
She's
I'm
gonna
looking it
find
up
Punching the
that.
right now.
keyboard.
Yeah, we could keep talking while she's searching that.
Yeah, dude,
Okay,
Vanderbilt's gonna miss the fucking playoff. That's insane. 10-2 in the SEC.
Now we're diving
10 and
into
okay,
two.
so,
football. Let's reel it back.
so it
Yeah.
It housed the Met Lab, where scientists led by Enrico Fermi achieved the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction in 42 under the stands of Stagg Field, which is what they showed. So that event proved that nuclear fission was possible. And then that paved the way for the Manhattan Project. So that had to happen for the Manhattan Project to start, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. I also like the scene where they realize the Germans are ahead of them because they split the atom, but then there's another scene later on where they get to like a crossroads where they didn't actually go in the right direction. They realize that they're ahead of them, and
Mhm.
I think because that is a kind of symbol of when you don't just have one type of people looking into something, and you've got diversity of thought where you get scientists from all over the world to come in and help, you can get things done as opposed to just having German scientists. And, that's the only kind of viewpoint you're looking at, right? So I thought, again, the pitfalls of the Nazi occupation of Europe, where they weren't actually able to complete because they were just too narrow viewed on what they wanted to accomplish.
Right, yeah. I think it showed that in a really great way, and I mean, it's a good metaphor for life and, like, people that are really well traveled, and interacting with a bunch of different people, meeting people with different perspectives, learning about different cultures. Those people are oftentimes the most open-minded and, well-educated.
Jackson, any thoughts?
What was the question?
We lost them.
We lost him, yeah. Well, going back to the price of the film and everything, it how much the film grossed, do you guys know how much it grossed? I have it here, but I'm just a little trivia question.
1.3.
You're
I'll
saying
say
billion?
that sounds right. That sounds right. I don't have a better guess.
It was 1,000,000,000.
What was the
I mean,
budget?
I mean, it probably cost what 350. I'm guessing. If I went cheap, say that maybe 300.
330,000,000. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's not it ain't cheap,
I
and
mean,
they typically say what you spend there is you spend basically almost double on promotion.
right.
So, I mean, they
They
made
still stayed
money, but
positive. Yeah, they went
yeah,
positive.
still
To
made
be
money.
fair though, I feel like most the big films like that, unless they truly bomb, the goal of the film is to create a good film and like a good product. Like these, directors in particular that work on a project like
Oh
that,
yeah,
like Chris Nolan, and we'll talk about the rest of his films shortly after this, but like he doesn't work on something that doesn't have depth, like
no,
even if it's Batman, like he turned Batman into this cult classic going forward,
yeah.
right? Is like one of the best films of all time, not just superhero films. Like The Dark Knight
Mhm.
is just a great movie.
What do you guys think about? Because it seems like he just keeps challenging himself and goes bigger and bigger and bigger each role. You know, because it's like, all right, after the Batman series, you could kind of almost expect him to do more of a more of like a self-interest, maybe like an independent film, a director's cut. He did
Interstellar.
yeah, he did Interstellar. Let's do intergalactic space travel. Dunkirk. Let's do World War One. Let's do my big war movie. That's my big war movie. All right, and now we're gonna go. Now we're gonna go into this, the making of the atomic bomb, forever changed the world. And then we're gonna go one of the greatest fictional tales ever. And our next big budget movie, like he just keeps almost raising the bar, which I find incredibly impressive.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever heard him speak before, like in any
Yeah,
interviews or anything, but like just he has an aura about him and you could just like just a very creative mind. And a theme within all of his movies is time. Like that's like a big thing within
Mhm.
his films. It's kind of like his thing. And so you can see that with all the films that he's made. Because there's only two of the films that he's made that I actually haven't seen. It was
Insomnia.
Insomnia and Following. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I haven't seen those
Um,
either.
all right. Well, let's at this point, does anybody have any more things to talk about with Oppenheimer specifically? Then we can kind of dive into Chris Nolan films for a second.
Maggie, you got anything?
I think that's pretty much all I got in terms of, like, the notes and everything. Okay, so well, my one question, Flynn, you told us to watch out for, like, when it changes to black and white in that narrative,
Yeah.
and my understanding was, like, that was when it went black and white, was Strauss's perspective.
So it's
Is that
Strauss's perspective as well as it's like the viewpoint of the time, like
Hmm,
that perspective, whereas color was
yeah,
all Oppenheimer's perspective of like what he
mhm,
was interpreting it. Yeah. And
yeah.
so is it really because like there's these scenes back to back where it was like color and then non-color, and you're like, what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a very subtle way of like showing there's a change in what's happening.
Mhm. Yeah, the differing viewpoints and then the political manipulation. Yeah. And then the other thing I had was just about the visuals to help the viewers like see what Oppenheimer is basically like seeing in his mind to visualize like the physics behind all of it. I thought that was incredible how they did it along with the scoring. I thought that was
But yeah,
amazing.
the other thing too is Chris Nolan doesn't use CGI in any of his movies. So everything we saw was not CGI. I don't know. Like all the explosions were real explosions that they did, which is and so, there's the fire where they zoom in on it and like you could just like really feel it like as you're watching it almost. I think that's like pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
insane.
absolutely.
Jackson, anything else you want to add?
No, that's about it.
Well, as far as Chris Nolan's film goes, yeah, the only two I haven't seen are Insomnia and Falling, so I'd need to add those to the list. But my ranking of his movies, and I will go through it real quick. So I've got Dark Knight, Interstellar, Oppenheimer, The Prestige, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Dunkirk, Memento, Batman Begins, and then Tenet, which if you haven't seen Tenet, that is one of the most confusing movies I've ever seen in my life. It is like, and it's just a classic Nolan film. Like Memento as well is similar to that, where they're both really good movies. You should watch them, but they're just like super confusing when you're watching it. You have to like actually research on the way back.
Yeah, I like Memento. I actually haven't seen Inception either, which I need to.
You
But
need to watch
my problem,
Inception.
I know I have to, but DiCaprio can't even explain it. He doesn't even know what's going on. Have you seen those interviews when they're asking him like, do you know what it is? And he's like, nah. He's like basically like, no.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen that.
it's an interesting film, and also the score to that one is by Hans Zimmer, and it's incredible. There's a couple songs that he did in there that are like really also thought provoking. So anytime there's a Hans Zimmer, he was in my top 5 Spotify this year for rap. So
Yeah,
clearly
you just saw him
shows.
live. You saw him live.
Yeah, I know he's my guy. So I gotta rep for Hans. But yeah,
Wow, such a nerd, such a film nerd.
Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with that list at all, Maggie? Because I have a few things I'd like to point out.
Mine differs, so go ahead with your problems, and then I'll tell my list.
Yeah,
What are your
I like that you
problems?
put Dark Knight. Well, I think I like that you put Dark Knight 1. I think a lot of people
Mhm.
are a bit blinded by the fact that Dark Knight's a Batman movie to put it as legitimately one of the best films ever. And I think, we're out here, we got to start having that conversation, all right? One
it
of the
is.
best
Mhm.
films. So I respect that. Now, what I don't, and maybe I'm a Batman homer, what I don't love is Begins is at 9.
Begins is
That's
not one of my favorites, man.
okay. No, I understand. I'm just saying I like Begins well more than I like Dark Knight Rises, personally. So
Okay,
I would
yeah.
flip flop those two. If
I
you
mean,
He
have an
doesn't
I
like
issue with,
Bane. He has a problem with Bane.
well,
I don't think he's
also
a great. Yeah,
I love Liam Neeson too, but do you don't think
yeah.
Tom Hardy did a good job with that role?
My problem was the character itself. I thought he did a great job as Bane. I thought they tried to connect it back to Ra's al Ghul, and they tried to wrap it up neatly with with a bomb, and it was a ticking countdown. I think the Nolan brothers are better than that. I think it was a bit of a sloppy end to the trilogy, but they tried to wrap everything up perfectly in a bow. And then Alfred sees him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in Italy having coffee now with Catwoman." It's like, all right, well, I don't know,
I
but
loved it. I loved it.
no,
Fair,
I
fair.
like that part. But the bomb, ticking time bomb. I didn't love how they try to wrap it up with Ra's al Ghul too much.
Yeah,
So I just didn't love that. And I love origin stories too, like how he, because I think you had never seen that how he discovered how he became Batman before,
Mhm.
and all the training, and then he eventually is asked to commit murder, and then that's where he turns on everyone, risks his own life, and then saves Liam Neeson like he's sliding off a cliff. So I just thought it set up the whole series perfectly from that point. So I just love that. At 9, just that disturbed me a little bit. Everything else, like
dude, there
I don't have too much of a problem with anything else
it's
there.
tough
I think,
to rank these movies though. They're all really good.
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of them are really
Interstellar,
different too.
They are.
yeah. I mean, Interstellar is unbelievable. I couldn't put it. I put Oppenheimer. I ended up with Oppenheimer at 4 just because I couldn't
That's
pass. I couldn't push it past Interstellar. You
I
know.
think that's still a fair rate. I just really enjoy Oppenheimer for a lot of different reasons, more of the
Yeah,
historical context, but and just the how Cillian Murphy's performance was like I think by far the best acting that I've seen in a very, very long time.
yeah.
Yeah, he did such a great job. Our list was pretty similar, Flynn. I put Dark Knight as one. So I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I have not seen Interstellar. I'm still waiting to see it. I need like the right moment to see it. And I know how amazing it's gonna be. So I'm kind of like scared to see it and then have that experience gone, you know? So
I
still
wish I could
waiting.
see it again.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So I'm just waiting for the right moment. These are just the list of Nolan films I have seen. So Dark Knight is 1, Inception is 2, Prestige at 3, Oppenheimer 4, Dark Knight Rises, and then Batman Begins, and then Dunkirk. I'm just not a huge war movie person. I mean, Dunkirk was fine, but it's just not
It's not
my
your jam.
It's
go-to
not
kind
gonna.
of
It's not gonna
film.
beat the other ones. Yeah, it's not gonna beat the other ones.
Yeah, it's not the story that I wanna see. Yeah, it was fine. I think I would need to compare it to, like, other war films, but that's just not my genre, so I'm not gonna, like, have really strong, opinions about it when it's not my favorite kind of movie.
I respect that. Yeah,
But yeah, Dark Knight, insane, and Inception, and then Prestige, like, I don't know, like, I wanna almost put it higher than Inception, but I've just seen Inception so many more times, so maybe the list will change eventually.
Prestige is really good. Gosh, I remember I saw that for the first time. It's just like the plot twist at the end is just so good.
Mind blowing.
I love a plot twist. Yeah.
And then I mean, Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman is also 2 legends of the game, just in
How
their
are you gonna beat that?
prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film all around, and yeah, I don't know, tough to put that anywhere but your top 5.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's a personal favorite of mine, and I feel like this film never gets the respect it deserves. The Prestige. I mean, people I like, they either I don't know. I just feel like it should be talked about a lot more.
Yeah, you don't hear it enough.
Yeah,
I agree. I certainly agree. Especially when you're talking about, yeah, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, I don't hear it come up, you know? You hear, obviously, Batman movies, American Psycho,
One
Yeah.
second.
you know, all the other Christian Bale movies, but Jackson actually introduced me to The Prestige, and I was like, "Holy shit, like, this is an amazing film." I was locked in the entire time. It was so good.
Yeah, it's one of his earlier, not earlier, but like earlier on in his movie career that he made.
Mhm.
Again, about time in a way, right? And yeah, I think he's going to continue. I am curious to see where he continues to go with his directing career, because like we had mentioned, like trying to do bigger and better like each time going forward. Is it going to be like a James Cameron-esque kind of, experience where he tries to do these like all feature films like every single time, right? As or if he's going
Mhm.
to back to like more of a prestige level where it's thought provoking but has a good story and isn't necessarily going to be like a box office kind of film, right? But then with the name, like Steven Spielberg, anytime you put any film out, you're going to get that notoriety because of who he is now, with Chris Nolan, at
Right.
least.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna pretty much be a hit from now on no matter what, and the stakes are so high whenever he makes something that oftentimes directors like him, they're not making, 25, 50 plus movies. They're keeping it really short, and the list is very tight because they want them to be, like, incredible, outstanding movies, and they take so much time on things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder what he'll do next
Yeah.
after The Odyssey.
The Odyssey is going to be amazing. I have zero doubt in my mind it's going to be one of the best films of our generation. Honestly, I think that one's probably going to be up there. I mean, the cast for that movie too is also pretty awesome. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, like just right off the rip, you got those actors in a movie, and right now at least, like they're some of the bigger names in film industry. So it's going to be, I think, a good one.
Wait, Tom Holland and Zendaya are in it? I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So graduating from Spider-Man to Chris Nolan film.
Yeah, power couple.
Amazing.
Tom Holland, good
For
golfer.
sure.
Tom Holland is a good golfer, and now
Really? I didn't know that.
he can not have. Well, he's gonna have Timothy Chalamet kissing on his girlfriend again in Dune 3, but he had
God,
to he had
it's like
to
the last thing I need.
he had to snatch her back. Quick pivot. Have you guys ever seen the movie Challengers?
Yeah, amazing film.
What's that one about?
Zendaya is a tennis player,
No,
and
no,
she
God,
ends
no.
up being a
Yeah.
coach. And there's a scene you've probably seen it on the internet where like she's making out with like the two guys on the bed.
I've seen like her on the bet. Yeah, I know like
Yeah,
the
and
type
Tom
of thing.
Holland's over there punching air because his girlfriend's kissing two guys in one scene.
No,
Yeah,
Tom
Anyway,
yeah.
Tom is secure in his
Tom.
masculinity, and no one, yeah, Tom, my old friend, no one could, break them apart at all. No one could compete with Tom Holland. Like, Tom Holland, his
Uh,
aura, his
no one. Yeah,
his
I mean,
riz, like, absolutely not. No, Tom
also,
Holland, safe and secure with Zendaya.
He's a good actor, and he seems like a nice dude from the interviews that
yeah. I mean,
he's.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. You're challenging the gods there when you're saying no one can break them apart. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
No,
you
if
make her a
if
tennis
I'm,
coach
like,
again. Yeah, you do Challengers Part 2. You get him on set. You see how long that lasts. All right. That's all I'm saying.
they're acting. I mean, and they like she had I think like one, maybe two like intimate scenes in the movie, but they were like very mild compared to other films I'd seen. So I don't think it was anything like crazy. It's their job, I think they're certainly used to it.
Hey, being a porn star is a job too. You know. Look, that's two shades off that. That's all I'm
I'm
saying.
sure Tom's not watching it and happy about it. But compartmentalization.
They're acting. It's
Yeah.
all facade. And then you're Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and you get married and
Yeah,
break up.
tell Jennifer Aniston you're acting. Yeah, tell her back in '05. It's all
Right.
acting.
Yeah, I mean, their chemistry in that movie is just off the charts, insane. And could you get, like, 2 better-looking people at that time? Like, that is just next level.
They were
Absolutely
both
wild.
very attractive during that time. Still are, but definitely at that
Yeah.
time.
Well, Jackson, what about your
Is that it for
list?
Oppenheimer? We're talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith right now.
I know. Yeah, we gotta bring it back.
What's your list for Nolan movies?
It's not important. I had my big problem shared already with Batman Begins. I thought 9 was The Criminal because that was his first big film as well. So I think you have to look at the moment in time as well. If you don't get a hit there, the Nolan career just kind of it might fizzle out, or it might take a little more time to build up. I think the success of that movie also led um, to the other films, which I think is important to contextualize in my defense.
Mhm.
So the other topic
That's
I
a good
had
point.
was RDJ. Was this Robert Downey's? Was this his best career moment or his best performance? Did you guys
So
have?
yeah, so I have a thought on this.
Yeah.
I talked about earlier, I think it was one of his favorite projects to work on because he had been in the hero space for so long. And obviously, Iron Man was like his big break to get him back into that world after having been out of it for so long with the drug addiction and just dealing with all that and whatnot. And he was ready to switch it up. And so this was like the perfect film for him to like really show his range of like how good of an actor he is. And I bet if you asked, I don't know if you asked him, is it his career high? Maybe because it's recency bias, but I think it's just different than what he had done for so long. And he won an Oscar for best supporting actor, so I would imagine that it probably is because he definitely didn't win one for his Iron Man character. So, like, I would argue that it's probably one of his best roles he's ever done.
What about you, Maggie?
I agree. I agree. Yeah. I think it just showed another like level of depth to him and his ability as an actor. And yeah, I wasn't thinking of him as Iron Man at all in it, which normally you would with an actor like him.
Well, he looks so different
Yeah,
too, which helps.
Right.
You know.
that's true. Yeah, but I think he just did an amazing job. Yeah, I think definitely career high, and he well deserved the Oscar. Congrats to him for that.
Yeah, that you're both incredibly wrong. The answer is Iron Man, all right? Because this guy, he had a blossoming career in the 80s and 90s, heroin addict.
Well, if you're
He
talking
was
monetary,
walking through Malibu, woke up in a kid's bed, and then thought it was his house. He was so strung out. He was on trial, put up for the world to see. He was dead. Dead. Started slowly making a comeback. John Favreau had Iron Man. He said, "All right, this is my guy." The studio's like, "We're not getting that short drug addict to be the star of our film." And he said, "No, no, no. This is my guy." And then his career absolutely took off from that moment. He is Iron Man. He is Tony Stark. And the self-belief and conviction he talks about how he needed to get that role is fascinating. He was driving like a beat up car at that time, but he, on the way to set each day, he was like, I'm riding around with security behind me and I'm in a Rolls Royce right now. Like he had that mindset. So that was his shift to being like, I can allow myself to do this and I will do this.
for sure. Also, like, you don't get the Oppenheimer role if you don't build yourself up with the Iron Man role, right? So, like, that, correlation there of like him getting to that, high point in his life of having been Iron Man
Mhm.
for this long, making this much money in that, and then he has the options to basically be like, I want to be on these films now because I'm the guy, right? Like, and he's been there that long. So yeah, of course, like Iron Man is what got him back into the scene, but as far as like if you like as an actor, right? When you become an actor, most people want to, like Matthew McConaughey, for example, he was tired of doing rom-coms and he was like, I'm going to not do a rom-com. He turned down tons of money to do rom-coms, got Lincoln Lawyer, then started getting a bunch of other roles that were, he got the Dallas Buyers Club role.
Mhm.
He ended up getting Interstellar. Like he was able to make it out of just being the really attractive guy that was in rom-coms. And similar with Robert Downey Jr., I think he still wants to be in the hero space because he is with the Fantastic Four, or not Fantastic Four. I guess it is with the new Avengers coming out. Like he's playing one of
Yeah.
the Doctor Doom characters, right? And so he still is going to be a part of that space, but I think he wants roles with more depth where you like really have to kind of change to the movie as opposed to just like being the same womanizer. Well, he actually did change his character arc quite a bit throughout the Marvel series, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Right,
mean
definitely.
that's a fair point, but I think he had equal amount. I don't think it was as one dimensional as a lot of superheroes. The first Iron Man. I thought the first Iron Man by itself was a phenomenal movie. The
Great
rest of
movie.
them, I really lost interest in the rest of the series, but I think the like Avengers world. But I think in that movie, I mean, it's point well taken, but I don't think there's this. I think it's an equal amount of range because in this movie, he doesn't require any action. There's no physicality to the part. He's never really happy or cheerful. He's mostly dour, stern, power hungry, greedful. So it's not like they're not asking him to have a full range of emotion for this part. So I actually don't
He's
look at it
also,
as,
but he's also not the main guy. Like, and he took this role knowing he wasn't going to be the main guy.
yeah.
I'm just saying it's a different role for him that then got him an Oscar, which he never got with Iron Man.
Yeah, but a lot of the Oscars, it's like, all right, this guy's been around long enough. DiCaprio won it for The Revenant. He's
Yeah,
in the forest
but
with a
he
bear.
should have won
He
it
should have. Yeah,
way.
that's what I'm
I
saying.
know, yeah, but
That's what I'm
like
saying. Like eventually they just give it to you. They're like, oh, Leo still doesn't have one. He's almost 50. Here you go. Like it. I don't know.
The Revenant's a good movie though.
It's fine. But yeah, but I mean, compared to like some of his other ones, it's.
Well, he's also been in so many movies that are really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think career peak though, for sure, for Robert Downey Jr. I'd love to see him in another role like this, in another movie that's like a drama, maybe like psychological thriller, something that really shows his depth like this role did. I really, really enjoyed him in a more serious role. But yeah, he's great as Iron Man. And yeah, I agree. Iron Man, the first movie, amazing.
All
Yeah,
right. Anything else?
I don't have any more I don't have any more counterpoints to that. I think
Yeah.
you're gonna Jackson, you're always gonna have a hot take, man. So I appreciate you for that.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think it's a hot take. I think it's the right answer.
It's not a hot take. I agree.
I mean, yeah, everyone has their opinions. All right, so we'll wrap this up a little bit. What are you guys watching right now, just for the viewers? Flynn, what are
I
you
did
watching?
TV shows. I watched all of Stranger Things, and then I caught up, and
Yeah,
yeah, so good. Would love to chat about that as well. So
so
I'm all
good.
caught up. All caught up with Stranger Things. Movie wise, haven't really dove in anything. I'd watched Zodiac today, which
Great
RDJ
film.
good in that role too. Jake
Oh
Gyllenhaal,
yeah.
Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, yeah, good movie. Yeah, I keep telling people different movies to watch. I need to like find my own kind of new ones, and also watch old stuff that I haven't seen in a while or never seen.
Hmm.
Period. To kind of get back in the film space.
Yeah,
Holiday time frame. You're traveling, or a lot. Haven't had a ton of time to watch movies.
for sure. We'll throw out one movie rack for the viewers. One of your like all-time faves.
The Arrival. Love that movie.
Yeah,
You
that's
guys got
great.
you've
I
seen it,
saw
right,
that. I
Jackson?
saw that in my film class, and so I saw that, and I would skip most days, but like once I hit my allotment, I started attending, and I saw
That's
that
good.
in I saw that in Interstellar,
Whew,
and
back to back.
it's like it's almost a full movie theater, but there's only like 14 people in it. So just the experiences of those two movies, that's why Interstellar holds so close to my heart because I'm like, you're seeing that in IMAX in a
Right.
theater, and there's not many people. Like it's just an unbelievable experience. And yeah, Interstellar gets you asking so many questions, which brings me to kind of what I'm watching is I just listened to this two podcasts from Dan Farah about the age of discovery. Have you guys heard of this fella?
Mm-mm.
He has a new hold on, let me make sure I'm getting that name right. I'm tripping out about that name now of the
Flynn,
documentary.
what's the Arrival about? I've not seen
Oh
that
no.
movie.
It's
Jackson finds
Yeah,
his
it's the age of disclosure, and it's about how basically like UFOs are real, but they're called UPAs because they can go in and out of air, land, and water. Is basically why they're referring to them as. And this new documentary, it's on Prime Video. It's 2 hours long. He interviewed like 34 government officials, eyewitnesses, people involved. But Marco Rubio is a big part of it because he was vice president or vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee for a while. And he thinks it's important to get behind. He thinks this is like the new world's biggest issue, basically, like similar to our topic, the atomic bomb and atomic energy. It's whatever technology will come out of this. And it's all about like space recovery. Like we've basically UFOs, we'll just call it UFOs for now. They call it the recovery program. So they have been recovered. So they're trying to back engineer the technology from it, right? And what the base commander of
This
I
is a
f-
documentary or is it a like
yeah, 2 hour documentary. It just came out on Netflix. He's on Joe Rogan, Dan Farah, and I listened to another podcast with him. I can't get enough of it right now because it's all so fascinating. And basically, they're actively considering. Trump's very aware of this documentary, and he's very aware. And Dan Farah thinks the filmmaker that this could be the most defining moment in history if a sitting president will reveal that we do have we do have extraterrestrial life. We have seen it. It is confirmed we have like if he breaks that, it could be the biggest moment in history. And he thinks he knows Trump is aware of it. He's judging the public's reaction off of it. And the reason the documentary was so big is it's a strength in numbers thing. So they don't reveal any classified information. They're very careful about that, but they're afraid if just one person comes out, they'll be similar to what happened to Oppenheimer. They'll get maybe everybody will just, tinfoil hat. This guy's crazy. This guy's a kook. Pile on. They'll lose credibility immediately. But if they can get enough people with enough credibility, kind of strength in numbers, trying to tell you the truth, But there's so many fascinating things that came out of it. A former Air Force base commander, I forget where, but he confirmed that their UFO activity outside Area 51 is real. So,
Now, honestly,
which I thought was fascinating.
I don't think anybody doesn't believe that there's aliens or something. Like, if you told the American public there was, it'd be like, sounds good. I figured there was. Like, I don't know. Me personally, at this point, I believe anything could be true, with all the information that's out there. So
Mhm.
I think at this point, the people would want to just know the truth about most things that the government is keeping from, to be honest. So
And well, I'm just gonna say that's the biggest holdup is like he's estimating it's $1 trillion, and this is again another Born Black program, which this could be S2 or S3 tying this all back together. But anyway, this is another Born Black program with no congressional oversight.
mm,
So where's the money really going? Like, I'm sure people are taking some, honestly. Let's be real. And what's really happened? How many crimes are being committed to get this, to try to uncover this new technology? China and Russia are putting as many, so how are you trying to? But that's the big fear is like we have to get ahead of China and Russia is kind of the whole point.
yeah,
So if we reveal it to the public, maybe we could put even more resources. But the big holdup is how angry the public will be at the amount of funding, secrecy, and
right.
lies that have been happening. Right.
Sure.
So.
You're diving into some like conspiracy stuff, man, a lot recently. You all right over there?
See, that's the thing is like it's not conspiracy stuff.
It's not
This is all doc.
conspiracy, man. It's all real.
Yeah. And they put this out. So in the 50s, the CIA, who is kind of Dan Farrar calls the CIA the quarterback of this, because the Air Force is used mostly for bases and aircraft. And then what's the other? Oh, defense contractors. So it's kind of a three-headed monster. But in the 50s, after the Roswell crash and UFO activity allegedly increased, the CIA started coming up with that they would just, instead of, I forget the term for it, but instead of denying it, they would just call people, crazy and condemn them. So it wasn't denying, it was just taking away the legitimacy of that person with conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, all that thing. So it's so common
Mhm.
in the public conscious, right? Dexter, episodes 2 through 5, Flynn. That's also what we're watching. Yeah. Have you ever seen
Yes,
Dexter? I
or
forget.
I haven't seen Dexter, no. I've heard
get
it's
off the
good.
podcast right now. Get off.
Okay. What?
Dexter, I like Flynn, I just am caught up with Stranger Things, so shout out Stranger Things. And then what else have I been watching? Oh, I've been watching Ted Lasso, actually. I'm about to finish season
Great
3.
show.
First time ever watching it. And it's one of those that I didn't want to like, because everyone's like shoving it down my throat, like, oh my God, Ted Lasso, like you have to, you have to. And I was like, ugh, like, okay, fine. And I did it. Yeah, it's great. So I
If
love it.
you're trying to avoid like heavy stuff, it's a good like feel good.
Yeah.
And it has a lot more depth to it than just like a dumb sitcom comedy, right? Like it's a good show.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
I'll
It's a
check it out
tearjerker
eventually.
at times, but I have a parasocial relationship with Roy Kent. Like, Roy Kent is the love of my life. Roy Kent, if you're out there, I want the actual actor to pretend to be Roy Kent the rest of his life and then come and find me, and that's my soulmate.
Is
So
that
yeah.
is that who Jason Sudeikis plays?
Absolutely not.
He
Fuck no.
plays Ted Lasso.
No.
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes
he
more
plays
sense.
Ted
That
Lasso.
makes more sense
And
than what I
he
said.
has this, like, mustache and this, like, country accent. Absolutely not. Roy
Well, I
Kent
don't
is, like,
know.
the opposite of Ted Lasso.
Okay, well, you like that one old weirdo. What's his name? He's in like Walmart commercials now or something.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, I mean, so now like anything's on the board. That's your number one crush, like you can't be like,
That's
oh,
not
that guy's a
number
must.
1. That's not number 1. Let's not be crazy. I do like Jason Sudeikis. He's in, like, one of my fave, like, rom-com type of movies, but yeah,
Or
no.
the Millers.
Roy Kent,
Or
amazing.
the mouse. Yeah,
Yeah,
horrible bosses.
That's my favorite rom-com.
Horrible Bosses. That's the one.
It's a great one. I actually can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head that I'm thinking of, but it's amazing. It's kinda like a Friends with Benefits movie type-esque. Yeah, it's great. I'll think of it, though.
Tracking on that one. Before I forget, you had asked me about Arrival. So that's a Denis Villeneuve movie, and he's made Dune. If you haven't seen Sicario, that is also a great watch.
Yeah,
Have you seen
yeah.
Sicario, Maggie?
No, I haven't seen that.
That is a good movie. It's Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin.
More
It's
CIA
like
stuff.
CIA cartels. Like it's really good. But Arrival is basically these UFOs, alien ships arrive to Earth, and they're just like doing absolutely nothing but just floating above the sky, basically. And
Mhm.
Amy Adams is the main character. alongside Jeremy Renner, and she's like a language specialist, and so they like call on her to help basically decipher an alien language. And it's a really deep movie. The soundtrack again is also really good to it. A lot of good, interesting like symbolisms in the movie, as well as like lessons. And I don't know, it's just a really good movie. I'd recommend watching it.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, definitely,
100%
I'll add it to
endorse.
my list.
Yeah, Denis Villeneuve, another one of my favorite directors, with Chris Nolan and some of the other goats of the game.
Nice, nice. Alright, well, yeah, for the viewers, next week, we got Dexter, episodes 2 through 5. We're diving back into season 1, so continue to watch those episodes,
Yeah,
and
for
we
the
will for all of our viewers, they're there, they're out there listening, okay?
Shout
yeah.
out,
Whoever you
all
are.
shout out all of our brands, Powerade, Taco Bell, DeWalt, Duluth Trading
Mm.
Company, you name it. No, but in all seriousness, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Happy to also catch up with some friends, and even with the time change and everything, and talk some movies. It was a good time.
Yeah, no yeah, I didn't know you're such a film lover. We'll maybe we'll consult about having you back, you know?